Welcome to the last quarterfinal in the Amazon European Masters knockout phase. The stakes are high as the last Super League representative Vodafone Giants are facing the first seed out of the LFL Misfits Premier. My name is Koolein and I'm joined by Trouble and Dagda, and once again we get to see LVP and LFL clash it out again.
I'm so excited. Like, our Spanish versus French weekend gets to culminate in this. It's going to be a banger of a series.
I mean, I hope it's going to be a banger because we made it a best of 5 for a reason in the quarterfinals. Let's hope that the last one is 5 full games of action.
I mean, yeah, we talk about best of 5, but let's be fair, what we've seen so far, they haven't really been that all competitive. They've pretty much been stomps if we take a look at the bracket.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of built up the series yesterday to be like, this is going to be a stomp, it's going to be a barn burner, and then we kind of looked like, oh, that's another 3-0. This is not looking so good.
Yeah, absolutely. I felt like UConn came and swept the entire best of 5 series. And if you look at the other matches as well, big 3-0, Fnatic Rising 3-1, they've been fairly one-sided matches so far.
I mean, let's be fair, we hyped it up so much because it was a repeat from the spring semis, which was very competitive. UCAM versus K-Corp. But then we get into that series and I feel betrayed. Honestly, I feel betrayed. I was so hyped up to see these teams battle out.
Because of the last Dutchman standing?
Yeah, the last Dutchman standing. I was a little bit disappointed, but we have to look at this team, both these teams, but K-Corp made a statement.
Yeah, they really did. It felt like they just kind of came in and were like, yeah, we know exactly how we want to play, and we're going to pile drive on through our 2 solo laners. They looked phenomenal in this game. And even though we saw like Rafida and UCAM and Hantera popping off in the Thresh, it just was not enough to deal with what K-Corp had brought to the table.
And I felt like K-Corp came in with a purpose. That was to slap the haters across the face and the doubters, because coming in from 2021, where they were the undisputed champions, they literally rolled over everyone back in that EU Masters. Coming into this one, there were a lot of question marks. You're not coming in as the first seed anymore. You lost your championship in the LFL to Misfits Premier. So how strong is still this iteration of Corp? And I think after this quarterfinal, we can say it's pretty damn strong.
Yeah, and I got to give a bit of a shout out to Ox as well. It was kind of like, yeah, I kind of like this iteration of Corp a little bit better. They've been looking pretty damn strong, and I think this was a statement series from this team, and especially going in towards the rest of our playoffs. I'm keeping my eyes on this team.
Yeah, just to elaborate a bit more about your point that Ox made, he felt that Cabochard was just a way better. I mean, it made K-Corp look stronger than they did with Adam back in spring. Now, I do want to talk a bit more about these solo layers because it was absolute solo lane dominance. Cabochard coming in and showing what was only 3 games, but quite some variety.
Yeah, I think that's the big one for me, is that the difference that kind of Ox was highlighting yesterday over Adam versus Cabochard is just kind of the flexibility that we see from this guy. Like, we saw him yesterday, right? He came out, he was playing these weak siders like the Gangplank. All right, cool, that's all well and good, but we thought we were going to actually see them play towards Cabochard in the top lane for Corp. We expected them to kind of go, no, we'll kind of take things like the Jaces, these kind of things they can play around. He looked more than comfortable on the Gangplank, 1v2ing at different opportunities, and then even when we got in towards game number 3, he brought out this Wukong counter pick, he popped the hell off, solo kills all over the George. I was like, god damn, dude, you're just kind of smurfing on people.
I mean, even on the weak side statement, right? It's like, yeah, I'm going to be Gangplank, be on a side lane, don't worry guys, 40 minutes in, I'll see you, I'll press an R here and there to slow down the enemy team. This guy was almost killing both the people that were hunting him down to kill him, and then when it was resulting into kills for Corp. So that's a pretty huge statement for Cabochard stepping into Adam's shoes as well, that not only is he good, but he's more than good enough.
And exactly, same when we look across at Seiken as well, the other solo laner for this squad. I mean, I honestly feel like it was a bit of a disrespect not to see the LeBlanc band away and them heavy focus onto that AD carry pool instead. It just felt like they needed to bring something a little bit different out. And when Seiken is popping off like we're seeing on your screen, how are you not supposed to go, all right, yeah, we kind of need to find some way of stopping this guy from roaming, setting up plays around the map, and dictating the entire pace of the game?
See, if you told me we're supposed to see Seiken from the LFL, from the group stage, I'd be like, yeah, possibly you can stop this guy, Bunny's LeBlanc, whatever. But he looked like he was on a different level. A lot of question marks came through. Seiken back in European Masters 2021 spring, when they won it all, he would play the tanks, he would dive in first grade engages, he would play the mages, he'd play the front to back flawlessly, he'd play the Akali and other assassins, he would find the perfect flanks. Lots of question marks came in, and I think that Seiken has pretty much zipped any mouths that ever doubted him.
Yeah, especially when we look at the champion pool, right? We're going to see it behind us here. The Rise, the LeBlanc, the Twisted Fate that he's playing a hell of a lot more in LFL. These have been the big things for me that have been the standout performers, because it has allowed him to dictate the pace of that mid lane, enable himself to open up onto the map and start to rotate around and make sure that he's completely taking over for Corp.
And it felt like he made LeBlanc look so disgustingly easy that I'm personally worried about my solo queue experience right now as a Katarina player. But if you look at the rest of the map, Rise, create pressure in the mid lane, push out the lane, bleed it onto the sides, Twisted Fate doing the exact same thing, and LeBlanc, he absolutely dominated his lane. But what was really impressive is how every time he would find his target onto that ADC and make him disappear off the map.
I mean, all I hear is your variety is key when it comes to these solo lanes. Very strong performance from them yesterday in XK Corp faced off UCAM and knocking out another LVP seed. Now, moving forward with Giants facing Misfits today, we get another Superliga versus LFL clash. This time around, Giants are the last ones to represent the region, and they need to show up big time as they face off one of the heavy favorites this tournament. And I do wonder, Trouble, as you already mentioned at the beginning of the week, what is up with the Superliga?
Man, what is actually up with the Superliga? They're coming in so hyped every European Masters. Very favored, top seed. We saw Noah in the LECC was like, we're coming in fired up. We're going to be bringing the thunder. This EU Masters is ours undoubtedly. And we've already lost 2 out of the 3 teams coming into the quarterfinals.
It has not looked pretty for this squad, and it feels like there's a lot of things that they need to try and mix up, and I think we've seen kind of disappointing performances over and over again. I mean, the last time, personally, I was kind of looking at the Superliga going, this is the team, was Mad Lions all the way back in 2018, where they won the entire tournament in summer. It really feels like we're not getting that same gusto from this squad as we got from even years previous.
I mean, the closest they were was with UCAM back in spring. That one's against K-Corp. And now even they fall again against K-Corp. They again run into that blue wall that is the second seed from the LFL.
Running into the wall would be an understatement. I think the wall fell over UCAM. They weren't even getting close to climb that wall, and then the wall just collapsed onto them. I feel like what I feel like is wrong with the Superliga is coming myself from like the GLL, the Greek region, seeing all these fast-paced games where there's a bunch of kills, there's a bunch of action. Macro sort of gets a little bit shoved to the side, and then coming into a tournament like European Masters, where the LFL is so macro-focused, you have teams like Big who play really fast, macro-oriented game. I feel like the Superliga has just fallen a little bit behind on that.
Now, Dagda, looking at these LVP teams, is there something we can pinpoint, something we see from both these teams that have fallen already, or something we see over all the LVP teams?
So I think the biggest thing for this EU Masters iteration is that we're seeing a very kind of mixed meta coming through from the Superliga teams. Because honestly, when I look at this style, we've been talking about a lot, it's like, hey, let's get support and play around those solo laners. Let's get out that, have that impact on the map. But instead, what we're seeing a lot from these Superliga teams, as you can see coming through, they're going to actually play a hell of a lot more down towards that bottom side of the map. And this has been a big focal point, like, especially as we look towards, like, as you can see, like, your bot lane's doing relatively okay. Top lane has been the sacrificial lamb the entire way through. Dreedy having a poor time of it. And we're seeing that even yesterday, where Rafida was getting nice and fed, there was very little that we could actually do. So I think it's just the meta not suiting up to this team.
I mean, looking at this is Movistar Riders, but UCAM, as you already described here, we saw Rafida taking the lead, but still they don't manage to close it out. And looking at these stats here, Trouble...
This looks even worse!
Yeah!
Because it's like, okay, your top lane bleeds. Wait a second, your bot lane bleeds too.
Yeah.
And even though actually in the bot lane UCAM got ahead, they just were not enough. It just wasn't enough to snowball the entire lead. I feel like just having one member that's going to carry the entire team, again, against teams like Big, Karma and Corp, and Misfits from here, is just not enough. You need the entire team to come together.
Yeah, and this is not us saying that these are bad top laners. This is just saying they don't get any help whatsoever. Like, there's just nothing that comes up that direction. So they do get left on an island. And when you're going up against teams like Karma and Corp that have completely swapped their style to fit this new meta, that's where you're going to fall short.
Now, I want to start talking about Misfits Premier and Vodafone Giants, because that's obviously the series we're going to look at. And looking at Vodafone Giants, I feel like it's about one man. It's like constantly that entire team saying, get down, Mr. President, and even spoon-feeding him to get him to carry for that team.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about Attila, right? This guy has been an absolute monster. And this guy has been an insane AD carry on the bottom side of the map, even when you look at the lane, but also when you look towards those team fights as well, right? And as you say, they try to give him everything. There's so many resources that are dedicated to that. And even when we look towards like the early level ones, they're very much about, hey, look, can we split this map? Can we try and set Attila up for success?
Yeah, and he gets a lot of the resources coming out from Vodafone Giants to the point where the top side of your map is completely and utterly drying out. But if we take take these level 1s and they manage to snowball through one kill that will go to Attila, they're gonna do it. And back in the Superliga, that's how entirely we're about to crush every game.
And even if they don't get the kill, right, you're seeing them burn flashes, they're splitting the map. It means that then you're constantly having your jungler playing down towards Attila. And it does mean you end up in the situation where Attila can get these massive goal leads. He can set himself up for success. And that's where they're looking for in these late game team fights for Attila to step up.
And then once again, we compare top lane and bot lane. And what do you see?
That looks a little bit better. I
see similarities.
Because at least it balances out whatever is lost in the top lane. You balance it out in the bot. I can specifically remember a game where the Antonio was playing Kennen, 10 minutes in, 30 CS only. They managed to snowball through the bottom of the map until the Kennen was so relevant in the game that he was creating havoc in the entire backline.
Yeah, and it's why we see so much pressure towards Attila when we look at things like draft, right? They know that this is where people are going to be looking. So get these things off the board and make sure that they're setting Attila at least a little bit uncomfortable and try and make sure that they can power through that bot lane.
Because let's take a look at their opponents of tonight. It's going to be Misfits Premier. It is a team that looks super scary. I mean, they took down K-Corp, and K-Corp already was the one that I was fearing the most coming into this European Masters. We spoke a lot about bot. We spoke about Attila, but I think we also need to speak about someone else that is a bit of a veteran on the side of Misfits Premier.
I love how you're all looking at me. Let me talk to you about our Lord and Savior Woolite, because he is the 2020 Summer Champion with a Go Rogue, the only member from that Go Rogue roster to not be picked up by an LEC team. And let me tell you what, this guy is popping people's eyes out. He's technically playing weak side. Yes, he is getting a little bit jungle attention when it comes to defending him on that bot side, but you will generally see him being very low profile in the early game. He will transfer from lane to lane to lane, and he will plug his Hoover on, his minion Hoover on, take everything from every lane that's coming his way, and then he's gonna be this big bad boss that you can never reach in the backline.
And it's what makes him such a menace when we get into these team fights. And as you're seeing behind us, like the Aphelios, the Ashes, the Varus, these have been the big tools for this guy, especially the Aphelios. 4 games on that champion. We saw the pop-off clips just there. I wouldn't be surprised to see this high party again in the draft where you're like, cool, if we can just feed him a whole bunch of gold, he can more than carry in these late game fights.
We talk a lot about bot lane when it comes to these two teams, but throughout the week, I've noticed that we've been talking a lot about mid, for example, especially with the champions that come forth on that lane. Now, looking at Misfits Premier, we see Sertuss coming up, and if I think of Sertuss, I think of one particular champion.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Sertuss's rise. I think he's unbelievably good in this pick. I love how well he's able to use his mid priority, and as you can see, he'll influence the whole map. And I think that's the big difference when we look across at someone like Vodafone Giants. You're more than happy as Misfits Premier to play towards that top side, play towards that bot side, towards Woolite, and I think he's so incredibly strong at opening up the map. And I think as well, when you look across at his lane opponent, we're not seeing that same sort of moving around from Miniduke. So I think Rise, another big pick that we'll see today, that will be performing, pushing out lanes, and having access to the rest of the map.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's been the name of the game anyway, to play with these globals, play with these semi-globals, the Twisted Fates, the Rises, even the LeBlanc in there where you can push your lane and transfer yourself to another lane to try and win that too. And I feel what is really, really scary about Misfits Premier is how they can use this mid lane specifically as their core point, and then suddenly you just see them spread all over the map, and macro-wise, they're just so hard to follow, and then suddenly you get choked.
I do remember, though, that you were saying that this might be the scariest mid-jungle duo we have, because we haven't really touched up on jungle. And, I mean, looking at this jungler, knowing what he's capable of, knowing how many bans he takes out as well, it's a scary duo.
I don't think it's a secret that I'm one of the biggest Shlatan fan girls. There is probably, even when we saw him in Kick together with Matislo, his leasing was absolutely phenomenal. This guy is just so good at smelling counter ganks from so far away. He's so good at scouting the opponents on the map. And then if he has to snowball together with Sertuss, he will. But a lot of the times we see him defending that bot lane as well, which is something that he does so well on the map, backing his team up.
It is now or never for the last Superliga representative. Giants are taking on Misfits Premier in our last quarterfinal in the Amazon European Masters knockout stage. To talk you through the series, it is a great pleasure to introduce you to the casters of today, Hiprain and Nymaera. Take it away.
Thank you very much, guys. We are getting ready to go into our final quarterfinals. My name's Hiprain. I'm joined by Nymaera, and we're getting ready to go into Misfits Premier taking on Vodafone Giants. Like the desk have hit on. It's not really a desk, they're all standing up, but like they've been hitting on over in the studio. It's a standing desk, baby. This is the Super League's last chance. We came in with the most teams going into the quarterfinals, and they potentially could go into the semifinals with 0 teams, nada, nothing. And the LFL could have taken out, a couple of those teams as well. Misfits Premier are that first seed from the LFL, and Karmine Corp had an absolutely stellar 3-0 game yesterday.
They did. It was a bit unceremonious for the other Superliga representatives. There is only one shot left in the chamber now, one shot left at glory. Many other narratives to that regard, but I'm looking at Giants, I'm looking at Vodafone Giants and thinking, okay, this is a team which has constantly shown us they are prepared. They do come in with interesting, intricate level 1 plans, and against a team like Misfits Premier, who have also been very dominant in the early game in a different manner, I'm really academically interested in seeing how those two go head to head.
I think the big thing that you hit on with me when we were talking about the game was, what are Misfit going to be like if they do get challenged? Because so far, it doesn't feel like they've really been challenged that much. They only dropped 1 game during group stages. They were ended first in Group A, 5-1. So, what are they going to look like if a team does start to challenge them, does start to, deny them those early games? Because we haven't really seen too much of Misfits playing from behind, playing on that back foot. And Vodafone Giants do seem to play pretty aggressive early. They look for these level 1s, right?
They do, and they will look to, as the desk said, try and put Attila ahead, make sure that they can very smoothly slide into their 5v5 state, which they're very comfortable with. I think the fulcrum here is another point which is talked about in terms of, okay, Sertuss, really good at playing through all of the map, give him a rise and he'll start tearing the map apart. Unless he gets shut down early. And the 2 times that we saw this team have themselves rattled a bit, it was support roams early into that mid lane. I'm looking actually towards Sertuss to see if Giants can start upsetting the boat.
All right, well, we're into champs, so Misfits are going to be on that blue side. Vodafone Giants on the red. We'll see who gets taken away. Curious to see where the early attention is going to go in this ban phase, because we've seen a couple of different spicy ban phases during the quarterfinals. I cast my mind back to 2 days ago when it was PDW and Big, and it was a lot of AD focus. Potentially an option to play around when you're playing into the likes of Woolite and Attila, try to deny them some of these more powerful picks. But for now, they are just going to take away this Scion pickup here. We'll see what the next rotation will be. It's going to be a pretty standard one there in the Thresh.
And one of the wonderful things about the Antonio is that they are probably one of the most unique players in the ERL system. They've been around for a very long time, featured in a great many Amazon EU Masters, and they play a lot of tanks top lane, as opposed to more of your fighter archetypes, your brawler archetypes that we have seen in the meta more often. Plays a lot of that Ornn, plays a lot of the Sign, and the Sign is immediately removed. It also removes the ability to do one of the funkier level 1s of having the Scion dying to a camp and setting up the lane swap.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the Ronka's going to get taken away. We saw what that was capable of yesterday. Yep. Incredibly dominant champion, obviously syncs up really well with your mid jungle. If you can get something like a Xin Zhao, heavy brawling jungler, and kind of hitting on the junglers a lot as they've been left open. They've not looked really to ban away too many of these junglers.
No, and most notably from the group stage, the Viego is left open, and Viego has wrecked so many games. You just let them get 1 kill, they run away with the team fight. We've seen that plenty enough, so you don't need me to talk about that anymore. We do see a couple more of our choice target bans coming through. Of course, Sertuss is global impact champions have been banned away in that LeBlanc and the Rise. On the other side, though, Attila not going to have that longer range, safer backline threat of the Ezreal.
Yeah. Well, we're going to see the pickup of the Lee Sin there for Shlatan, and Antonio instantly locking in a pretty solid. We talked about level 1 for Vodafone Giants. Braum Xin Zhao. That's a nasty one. A lot of combo you can pull off there nice and early. We'll see what's going to get rotated and potentially answered out here. Probably looking towards some kind of support. I'm just kind of running racking my brain who's left open. Obviously with the Rakan and the Thresh taken away, can make life a little bit harder. But they may just look towards an AD carry. Maybe sit on the hands a little bit as far as that support ball goes, because typically we had that Nautilus and Leona, but Braum does pretty well into those champions.
Sure, and there's also Rel as well if you want another engaged champion. But the important thing for me is the takeaway of the Aphelios from the Braum. Braum Aphelios is very fine to peel back in team fights and go towards that 5v5, which of course we've seen time after time from actually quite a lot of our Spanish teams, but particularly Giants have indexed towards that even more heavily. Aphelios is the one champion which these two teams have both played in the AD carry role. Misfits Premier also played a bit of Ashe and Varus on this patch, and we have the final of the trifecta of global impact champions coming in from the Twisted Fate for Sertuss, however immediately answered by Miniduke's Sylas.
Something we do see often into champions that, you know, have that global impact and just the ability to steal that away or at least borrow it and come with you. Sylas also pretty nice laning phase into the Twisted Fate. Anyone who's fought this champion knows that his W key is a little busted. Makes trading really, really irritating. See what the bans are going to be and where the attention goes. Obviously, Vodafone Giants can look to ban away some of these supports, looking towards that kind of long-range, non-committal engage in the Leona. Misfits Premier probably going to see more AD carry bans here. They've got their hands onto that Aphelios, maybe looking to take things away like the Varus, but actually targeting the Antonio and things that can kind of force these fights here. You talked about, you know, the Antonio being a tank player. They're kind of focusing a little bit more towards his pool at the moment, but things like the Varus are still open, so there is that long range engage if they want to take that. A couple options still for Vodafone Giants.
But they actually haven't played the Varus themselves this split. Maybe Mrs. Premier banking on the fact that they're just not going to play that. At least, yeah, not on this patch. At least I'm not sure about the entire split. But actually, the Rel still available for Jactroll in terms of primary initiators. However, Rel is a champion that can get dumpstered in lane. It is not a very tanky support if you don't land your Aftershock. And even when you do that, you can find yourself getting popped more often than not. I was actually very interested about, because the cannon does get banned out. We'll talk about that one a little bit because that's a very fun champion. But the Ornn dynamic with the Braum, you've already locked in the Braum. That's like the one last choice counter to that champion, which also has that backline access. Cannon with the flash also does a similar role to what Ornn does in terms of just buying so much space in the first onset of the fight.
Well, we're going to see Attila get his hands on to the Tristana. Pretty nice combo here. And again, that level 1 looking hella scary if you're on the side of Misfits. So they have to make sure they cover these jungle entrances well, because they could get jumped onto. We'll see what Misfits are going to kind of round out their composition with here. Maybe it's going to look a little bit more standard towards the top side as far as the blind picks go. Looking towards this Renekton, the Agresivoo. I'm curious to see what support they want to go for. You did mention the rail. There is obviously, you know, things like the Nautilus as well. But again, you're into a Braum, so he kind of makes their life pretty hard. In fact, he can just lock them down once they jump in. So maybe going a little bit less traditional in the engage department. I do worry that you'll be lacking in engage.
Well, that's the worry, right?
Maybe an enchanter, right?
But the Lulu does do well into the Braum. You get to hammer away against them as the melee support. Lulu doesn't always do well against enchanter supports. That's incredibly dangerous. That is very dangerous. About him. If you're locking Alistar into a Sylas, I mean, I don't need to tell you how many extra W's you get off in the Stolen and Breakable Will. In fact, I would consider as soon as Sylas is locked in, Alistar is off the table. You effectively get that extra ban alongside it. However, maybe they just see, all right, Rel is not the pick here. I would have preferred that over the Alistar. You're still getting that engage, but you're not allowing Miniduke to just be unkillable.
It obviously, yes, it makes Sylas. We've all seen Sylas with the Unbreakable Will on, how disgusting that can be. Now adding a little bit more to the global power of Vodafone Giants is this Gangplank. I actually love this stand for the Antonio. You know, he can just play weak side versus Agresivoo. He can play aggressive in lane if Shlatan wants to play top side. But if he just wants to sit back and then just look for Miniduke to steal away the Destiny, go bot lane, cannon barrage on top, suddenly it's a 4.5 versus however many people Misfits can muster into the bot side of the Rift. So potential dives coming in, and like you said, if this is happening kind of post 6, it's, you know, Jactroll might be hard to kill, but he's going to go down no matter what. And even if Miniduke doesn't have to steal the Destiny, then he can tank for the team with the Unbreakable. It's going to be an interesting matchup. I'm curious to see how this early game looks.
Absolutely.
Because it does feel a little bit like Vodafone Giants have locked themselves a pretty nice early game in like those kind of level 1s, which they have to play for. But beyond level 1, what are we making of this?
I do think that there are tools on both sides, and I think one of the things which kind of transcends just the team comp does this, the team comp does that. Mrs. Premier have something like the second highest goal difference at 10 minutes, the highest dragon percentage, second highest herald percentage too. They just have it all in the early game. I wonder if they're just going to brawl beyond their champion's worth.
Yeah, and I mean, those stats, what they show is the fact that they are just able to get away with taking more than they should. And the question is are Vodafone Giants going to let them take more than they should? Because, you know, if they're just back-to-back taking objectives, we know Misfits can play luck. They can play to win. They understand their win conditions. And even if you do lock things like Alistar and Miniduke harder to kill, they're a team who are able to execute on it by giving Woolite all this extra gold for the Rift Heralds and, you know, obviously the power and the stats that the Dragons give. So Vodafone Giants, it needs to be on them to make sure that when an objective gets traded, they make at least some kind of play on the other side. Because if you roll over and let them take the dragon, and then don't go topside or find a gank or get the Herald in response, you know Misfits are just going to move topside and take it on the other side. And here's that Vodafone Giants level 1. Obviously, Misfits, they knew this was coming. They're going to take that down. They are going to give Attila the ward just for a little bit of bonus XP. I don't really think it's going to matter too much in the experience department, though.
No, it's not. It's only really an issue if you give it to a solo laner. It means they hit that level 2 off of the first wave instead of the first creep off of the second one. Pretty standard stuff. This is not going to be the explosive level 1 that we've actually come to expect from Vodafone Giants, though. It is going to be a scouted jungle start from Shlatan. So hopefully that means for the Giants fans out there that they have the information there to stop Misfits Premier from running away with that early game and having the best of every world they could possibly want. Because as you're saying, actually, maybe this could be a series, maybe this could be a team that can stop Misfits Premier from getting all the dragons and all the heralds, making them have trades, because that's not something simply that they've had this tournament so far.
Yeah, when you've not kind of been getting challenged in those areas, you can maybe get a little kind of, you know, a little bit kind of set in the motion, forgetful of, you know, not forgetful, I not the term, but, you know, you can get a little bit more confident and kind of just
the false
lax.
sense of security tends to describe
There we go.
that.
Lax is the word I'm looking for. I had a brain fart on that one. I do like to see the Antonio actually playing aggressive here in the top side because of the fact that they knew Shlatan was starting on his red buff, clearing upwards, and he obviously has the information. His jungle is clearing upwards. There might be a bit of a fight for this early crab. Haven't got that mid pressure from Miniduke. Nice little ward gets placed down by Sertuss, so 113 is going to get tracked here as well. So this top side and this mid side kind of jungle pressure could really decide this early crab and maybe potentially lead into one of these junglers either getting a double crab
about
or
that
just a
clearing
tempo
upwards,
advantage.
maybe just go mid instead.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other option. Sertuss is just going to get forced to flash. He's able to get away. A little bit closer than he needed that to be.
Okay, so taking a detour from your previously very well calculated flight tour, going bot lane now.
Kasing, he's burning down to the Ignite, but he will survive for now. So it looks like they're just going to call it off there. Jactroll with that level 2, kind of show what the cow's capable of doing. Has got the flash, so Kasing has to always be a little bit careful on that front as Antonio teleports back into the top lane. Always here with the health bar advantage, so he can rotate over. And you can see already the fight for crab looking to be used, but pressure's not actually going to get used as the Antonio comes in. And wow, holy
7 HP. I was out there like, huh, wow, that's getting really close. And then the Q hits Lee Sin. I'm thinking, wait, wouldn't that have just killed the crab? I mean, okay, Shlatan ends up securing that one, but the early ward actually towards that Raptors means there's another fight mid.
Yeah, Miniduke though with the Kingslayer able to heal back up, but this is what we're talking about. Whoever's able to get that first crab was most likely going to be able to get the second crab, especially when you look at the minimap and you see that Woolite and Jactroll are pushing up there, forcing Attila underneath the tower, meaning that this is going to be a double crab start for Shlatan. Almost lost his topside crab, I'll give you that, but double crab start, and he's got a great little tempo advantage there, and Sertuss realistically not being punished for burning that flash early.
And one of the things which I love about actually both of our LFL teams that we've seen, but of course we're seeing it in this game first and foremost, is how well they think on their feet. They just see the evolving game state and respond accordingly. Sure, 113 goes in towards that mid lane, gets that flash, but actually Misfits Premier are the first to the punch. They get down that extra ward to stop the return gank coming in, stop anything more coming from that. It gives Shlatan the information to actually go towards mid and start getting some more pressure for themselves. So Giants find themselves behind in this early game. They don't get themselves the level 1 they need. They don't really find themselves many advantages. Misfits Premier now have the front foot in this race.
You can see Kasing was trying to force and find where Shlatan was. Shlatan able to steal away that Gromp, is going to get himself the reset cancelled, but will be able to get away anyway. And he get back onto the Rift to do some clearing, although that cancel will buy 113 and Kasing some room to move into Shlatan's jungle and steal a camp away. So that mini tempo advantage you got has kind of swung back and forth, and it's that kind of swings and roundabouts. But with the whip now finished up into Shlatan because he got that double crab, means his jungle speed is going to be a lot faster and means he can get onto the map and be proactive quicker.
I think one of the big things which did come in for anyone that does build a Gold Drinker, but most notably towards the Renekton and the Lee Sin, was that back before the item rework, you might have built a tier map, but you'd kind of only do that if you're going for the huge combo one-shot builds. Now actually your most tanky option is also the one which gives you the fastest clear speed for Lee Sin or the wave control for something like your Renekton as well. It just gives you the best of both worlds. We see level 6 hit by Miniduke in that mid lane and steals the TF ultimate before he has it available himself.
And that is kind of hitting on what I was talking about earlier. Watch the Antonio's speed bar, watch that tick up, because I think once that level 6 comes in, we could see some action break out. Attila, very rightfully so, rocking that cleanse. Obviously, you got to be very careful when you're playing into Sertuss. With that gold card, and looks like Jactroll might be looking for a little something here.
That's a lot of people
Miniduke, he's got a lot of people coming in. He's still got that flash. He's held it, gets jumped onto. Gold card, red card locked in, and Miniduke with the Kingslayer.
Okay.
There's the cannon barrage. 1-1-3 comes in. Sertuss finds first blood, but he's going to get chased down. Locks himself a gold card to make sure he won't be falling today. It's just a 1-for-1.
So, I mean, we were talking about, hey, if this Misfits team, this Misfits Premier team goes for a play, how about we have a response somewhere else on the map? Well, actually, the Giants, they just respond immediately. And it's actually going to be that stolen Destiny. I was just looking where that was going to go. Going back into that mid lane for a quick reset.
Yeah, it keeps the tempo up a little bit for him, so he's going to be able to catch this wave and not lose too much, because obviously getting killed as the wave crashes in, that hurts a little bit. Hurts your wallet. Antonio did now obviously burn his ultimate, so cannon barrage on cooldown for a little bit longer. It's the Antonio just now having to deal with Agresivoo, who's going to stop him from getting that reset off in the optimal wave placement. Jactroll, early roam, lovely stuff, really.
Yeah, and as we saw from the early bot lane priority, it gives the Misfits Premier team the ability to use their first support roam, but you said to watch out for level 6 from the Gangplank low. It does come in, and 1-1-3 is also there to respond very, very quickly. Very neatly traded back from the Spanish reps.
Yeah, it's nice to see, but, you know, the proactive play was to match the proactive play. I'm cool with that. And just as long as you're not giving something up for nothing. Obviously, first blood was given to Sertuss, so financially a better move for Misfits, and you can see the gold is ever so slightly leaning in their favor as Jactroll is just completely obliterated. Attila finds the kill. That damage, my guy.
Oh dear, that's a kill onto Attila. Attila does a lot of damage. Actually, he's the highest DPM player in the whole of this tournament so far. That is bad news, because he's had so many bans put against him. Anything to stop this player getting off the ground, and he's found his way into the game now.
See, actually, Vodafone had a really good read, because Shlatan, I don't know if he started the Rift Herald, or was at least in the area. 1-1-3 goes up straight away to help clear the wave, and then instantly that forces Shlatan off the Herald, because he knows there's going to be 2 people roaming towards him. Sertuss can only really match with the Destiny, but that does mean he's a little bit slower. So just very heads-up play from Vodafone Giants, as Miniduke is going to steal away the Alistar ultimate, so he has that to work with. Kasing just roaming down with Miniduke, get a shove in, so Miniduke can go for a reset. Assume he's got that lost chapter finished up, and Woolite had a nice little trade versus Attila, just feeling it a little bit, but Ward in the pit means Shlatan, they know where he is. And the Antonio's been zoned away, so he actually can't roam up here.
And the wave's in not an awesome spot for him. Of course, with the number of blue players heading up towards that top lane, no way to bail out this wave state. Doesn't even have a cannon barrage available right now to help him with that. So, I mean, Antonio just has to sit there and look ruefully at the gold, which he's missing out on, is just in the bottom side. Attila's not really in a position to punish on that bot side. It seems like they had 2 weak sides of the map very, very briefly, and Misfits Premier are looking to use the march which they've stolen on the Giants and go towards tops.
Yeah, they're going to bring everybody up. He's going to do his best to clear out the wave, but he is caught out, and he is going down. Shlatan secures the kill just like that. That's the second kill for the French League in this game.
And it's a pretty freebie one, right? I mean, you can see the state of the map. There was no support roam coming in from Giants early enough to secure themselves a return kill or protect that. At least they managed to clear the wave, but again, we already talked about the cannon barrage being very important in terms of responding to plays, attacking the source of the global, though it does well for the LFL team. Miniduke, even with that giant note button saying, "You can't kill me, don't fight around me, I'm very strong," was not there at the play, and Misfits Premier just find the gap in the net and find themselves a play.
It's kind of one of those old things as well, you know. Old school League of Legends is attack the global. Yep. It's still a working tactic. It's a way to play around teams that do have these functional globals. You saw the early gank onto Sertuss meant he has to play somewhat safe versus Miniduke. Obviously, has now got that flash back, so can play a little bit more comfortable. As Kasing is pretty far behind Jactroll experience-wise. He has been roaming around the map a lot. He's level 4. To Jactroll's level 6, and having that ultimate unlocked on the Alistar.
Very important.
Doesn't mean he can play a little bit more aggressively. has to be somewhat careful as he's going to try and flash forward. They're looking to lock him down, but over the wall he goes, and Woolite jumping in with damage. There's the Unbreakable. Here's the team fight. The teleport's coming in. Already Kasing has lost his life. That's going to be a number one answer. That is 2 already as Attila has to flash away. Misfits Premier is taking it all as Vodafone Giants are sent packing.
And what does it start with? It starts with a support out of position. That's all well and good, apart from it's one of the few people on the map at this point you really can't kill. Sertuss is even able to just go towards top side. Doesn't even have to use the teleport to respond to the initial play, and the Antonio doesn't have to commit his to the play because he just sees that the fight is already well done and dusted. Going back into that replay, can see why, of course, Jactroll feels so bold about this point. It's nice that you do have that Xin Zhao there for the side of Vodafone Giants, but Jactroll just pops the ult, much like we're talking about with the Sylas. Well, I mean, who does it better than the original? Jactroll gets in and just buys so much time.
Yeah, and Attila just couldn't even step up, so he had to flash over the wall, jump away to safety. Luckily for him, Shlatan wasn't able to find him, but Dragon didn't get changed out at least, so teamfight, you can see the damage being dealt over time. 185 from Attila, 1,800 from Woolite, and a big chunk of that was actually eaten up by the Unbreakable as well. So you can see how much more Woolite was offering Attila in that fight.
Yeah, so we had some conversations about both AD carries on the Analyst desk. We had some things about the Church of Woolite versus our Lord and Savior Attila in that bot side. And it seems like for now, the Aphelios is coming out further ahead. And as we get towards second items, that's going to be very important to track as well. I'm hoping to see something like a Lord Dominic's Regard coming out of Attila, maybe to chunk through Jactroll just that little bit more. Might have to see ourselves a fight brewing right now, though, as the Dragon is started by the Spanish team, and the River is now being contested.
They do still have that Rift Herald onto Shlatan, so you can place that down to try and force a mid-priority. Dodging away on the Winter's Bite, pretty big there. As Kasing still not level 6, still no Glacial Fissure available, so they can't kind of make that team fight zone to work with. That's going to be pretty scary to think about for Vodafone Giants, but
Will be, yeah.
looking like they're not really too fussed about it at the moment.
No, but and the thing about Kasing being so far behind Jactroll in terms of that experience is that, I mean, normally you expect that Kasing is kind of playing bodyguard towards Attila, protecting the present, need to protect 113 though.
Oh, good Unbreakable though to dodge away a little bit, but the kick comes in from Shlatan, 113, able to hit that, flashes away safety, Crescent Guard is on, Sertuss just free firing off, Miniduke burning low, Attila has to use the ultimate defensively, there's the Glacial Fissure, but there's the flash into the gold card, wildcards hit as well, Vodafone Giants with blinking health bars and a blinking tower, 113, I think you might have overstayed your welcome a little bit, friend.
Miniduke does clear out that extra wave. It's a 1 for none somehow, because when I see an Aphelios, regardless in the game, stacking up so much on stuff like the Conqueror, getting in towards that melee range, you are very, very afraid for, regardless of the weapon combination, your own health bars. You can see that, of course, runs out of the Crescendum, but has great weapons to just spit that fire out across the team as soon as that goes down. Doesn't change up to the Infernum towards the end of that fight. 113 luckily survives long enough in the front line, does have Gore Drinker at that point, and of course their ultimate. Speaking of ultimates, you did call out that Glacial Fissure, just enough to secure the fighting retreat for Vodafone Giants.
Yeah, I think if Kasing didn't get that at that point, that fight would have been way worse, and
oh, for sure,
Woolite would have been in an even stronger position. Now, funny to see that actually this Dragon's still not been taken. You know, we kind of touted Misfits.
Oh, not for lack of trying. I mean, where did that last fight just happen?
True. They did get first Tower Blood, and Woolite got 610 gold. So, you know, you win some, you lose some. Jactroll actually looking for the Antonio here, and Sertuss is coming in. Gold card's there, but there's only so much he's going to be able to cleanse. Waiting for the trample, into the stun.
Oh!
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you lose games, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he used that flash. It was a buffered headbutt from the looks of it, and just punts him back into safety. And very lucky to get away with that one. Felt like that could have been a much cleaner CC combo, and yet the pirate lives pirate another day.
Can go back and spend his plunder. Not that he's got much. He's got a Triforce at least finished up, so you know the passive gold you get from those Silver Serpents does stack up, and it's going to be pretty nice for him as Misfits rotate everybody over towards this second Rift Herald. But Vodafone Giants, they are not done. They want to scrap. They want to contest, but They're going to have to do something pretty soon, and it looks like they're not going to be able to do so. The Winter Spike's blocked out, and in jumps Jactroll. Xin joins him, and that is just going to be an absolute cluster. Attila has the kick on, but the flash forward comes in. Gold card to follow up, and it is just a slaughter from Misfits Premier.
And Shlatan wins the mind game at the end to even finish off Attila. They win all the other kind of games too, it seems like, in this first one. It comes down to that Herald. See, they get it down super low. And the really important thing for me is what the heck's happening with the solo laners from Vodafone Giants. They are being held up entirely by this Renekton in the mid lane. They turn up to this fight far after it's already done and dusted. Yes, the Buster Shot comes out towards the end of it there, but maybe it should have been used to disengage a little earlier. Vodafone Giants were just not in a position to fight that without the Sylas and Gangplank being able there to support the rest of their troops.
There's a really nice hold on the flash there from Shlatan, actually. 15 minutes in, gold lead is 4,000 over to the side of Misfits, and you can kind of see where that's being reflected in Woolite 2 items on the Aphelios. Got the Hurricane, got the Mortal Shield Bow. It's in a pretty solid place right now, and oh no, the Antonio. That's going to be one dead pirate. He escaped death once. There is no second chances. Misfits are not giving him the opportunity, and they talked about it. Investing into your AD carries is going to be a big thing here. Woolite, 7,600 gold to Attila, 5,700 gold. Massive gold difference between the AD carries, and this might be one dead mid tower.
I think it's going to be a good chunk out of it. Not going to step up and finish it off. Is the charge even going to come through? The smite finishes it. All right, that's actually quite important. That's quite important because, of course, the mid lane outer turret has forever been one of the most important strategic objectives to remove those vantage points, remove that ability to you know, push in so far across the other side of the map to deny priority for the big objectives. We do see one of those objectives go down. First dragon in the game going over to Misfits Premier. And, you know, we set this up in advance saying, hey, wouldn't it be great to see how Misfits Premier play against a team that doesn't let them take everything in the early game, force them to make trades? We haven't seen that this game. They are ahead in gold. They've taken both Heralds. They have taken First Dragon as well. Seems like they have managed to get it all. Heck, Woolite, as you were saying earlier, has gone towards the Hurricane. He's felt so emboldened. He hasn't needed to go towards something which doesn't really want... well, I mean, going towards that Hurricane means you want to be in melee range. It means you want to be right in the thick of it. He has felt emboldened to even do that.
I think the one thing as well is, you know, we've not seen... teams really match Vodafone Giants on a lot of areas. At least, sorry, Misfits Premier. At least Vodafone Giants are matching them, but it's always reactive. It's never proactive. It's never, oh, they've gone and done this objective. Let's pool our resources into this area and play around here. It's, oh, they're over there. We should probably go over there and stop them. And then they have a fight. It's always very reactive from Vodafone Giants, and I think that's the thing they need to look at.
But I would say it fell apart after that mid lane play. Remember, 113 comes in for the early adaptation of the jungle room. Maybe they can get a kill mid. They get the flash, all right, cool. But then actually, Misfits Premier think on their feet a lot quicker. You're right, it is about that proactive. It's about the heads-up play, not just getting stuck down in the rock into the real mire of the game. And Giants seems like they have been a step behind. You're absolutely right. They will need to be more proactive if they want to mount a comeback in this game or even in this series, dare I say.
I think, like, playing reactive isn't always a bad thing.
No.
I think you can also have very good reactive comps. Braum's actually quite good at playing like that as well as a reactive champion. You know, the Gangplank also obviously leans into that as well in some way. But if everything you do is reactive, then it means you're always behind on the play. So I think reactive's okay, and I don't think it should be kind of used as a negative word, because I realized when I said it, it may have sounded like I was talking about it in a negative sense. But I feel like if you're only being reactive, then you can't actually get ahead. You're just always playing on the back foot.
In this specific matchup, though, against this specific team, I think you do have to frame it more towards the negative side of things, though, because, of course, Misfits Premier are our premier early game team. They are the team with the best stats overall across all the metrics to put them together, and you can see exactly why. And as much as Attila has been fantastic at playing around late game damage numbers, the rest of the team have enabled that player to get said statistics. They need to get there first, and with this gold lead, and with, of course, that gold spread out across so many different threats, I would say that Vodafone Giants are not going to even get to that state in this game one.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We're 20 minutes in now, and the gold lead I hit on being 4,000 is growing even more.
Yeah.
Misfits, the big problem for them right now is actually cracking open this mid lane tower, because I have a little bit of a fumble on that Rift Herald. Oh, Shlatan, no, don't worry. He's
Just a love
lucid.
tap.
He's having a bit of fun. There's a lot of wave clear once you got the Gangplank here.
Okay,
The jump into
okay.
the team by underneath that tower. Woolite is emboldened. He's firing out as Miniduke tries to join into the fray, but it's already done so. Shlatan finds the kill. 2 members of Vodafone Giants go down to none of Misfits Premier.
And suddenly the dam breaks, doesn't even need that tower to be down. Shlatan just slaps them in the back of the head with a parting shot of that Q. And it's right on time. It's right on the 20-minute mark. Going on to 21 minutes. They go towards that Baron. Might lose a tower and recompense. But what a game-breaking play from the French players.
Absolutely beautiful stuff as well. And they're able to hold this mid lane tower, as well as getting themselves the Baron
They have it all.
Nashor. And suddenly, it's going to be harder to hold that mid lane tower.
Oh, absolutely. As much as they went towards it before, couldn't quite finish it off with the Herald. Well defended by the Giants. Yeah, well, this is the game-breaking play now. Good job trying to fight back against this kind of gold lead, which is inevitably going to be accelerated. And we return back to the word which we used a number of times towards Woolite, emboldened. That was a very bold play from the whole team involved, and the damage numbers were just too irresistible. Mrs. Premier, you cannot keep on the rampage.
I mean, this Braum, even unbreakable, not impossible to kill. It's Woolite on a rampage, 4-0 right now. Closing in on that 3rd item as well. Down goes the mid lane tier 1. We're probably going to see the tier 2 crumble as well, especially with Attila resetting. And Vodafone Giants are probably just having to turn their attention a little bit more towards that next game, or how they're going to try and turn this around in the 2nd game of the series, because Misfits Premier on an absolute roll in game number 1. A Baron almost on spawn. And they can use that gold how they please. Let's have a look at this fight once again underneath the tower.
So actually, very importantly, they're looking towards it. One of the first things I noticed that Kasing's E is down. You don't have Unbreakable. You don't have a way to stop Woolite from going right into the middle of the fray and getting out so much damage. Yes, you do have that Gangplank ult covering part of the battlefield, but when you have a Renekton, a Lee Sin, who are very good front lines at this point in the game before the damage is built up by AD carries, they get to dive towers all day like this with that kind of lead, and they do it so well at that point.
Remember what's at stake right now, though. This isn't just about making it to the semi-finals. For the Superliga, for the Spanish, this is their last hope. They entered quarterfinals with the most teams. Here at the quarterfinals, they had all 3 teams making it out of the group stage and the play-ins, and they may lose every single one of them before they even get to semis. Misfits Premier, the first seed from the LFL, from the French League, looking to match KC, who had a dominating game yesterday.
Hey.
And also took out a team, but we're going to jump in here onto the fight. The Cannon Barrage goes down, but Agresivoo is able to get himself away. Nice little kick by Shlatan into that gold card. Shlatan able to jump over the wall. Attila doesn't really owe so much damage, but look at the block coming in. Woolite comes in with a 4-man Graviton, and the fight has gone so wrong. Sertuss is just given his destiny in underneath the tower. Attila's gold carded. Attila's cleansed as Shlatan jumps in with a kick. They're trying to find the turnaround as Shlatan as he goes to the stopwatch, waiting for the rest of the team to make their way forward. He jumps in with a ward up. The Gourd Drinker's on. Agresivoo's tanking the tower, but they're not going to die any further forward. Vodafone Giants are just about able to get away with 2 members. Another tower falls, and Misfits 11,000 gold up at 24 minutes.
How is that fair? How is that fair? I know we were talking about, hey, frontline for Mrs. Premier, really good at this point of the game. Didn't quite realize it'd be that good at this point. You can see that Vodafone Giants are struggling to find clean engages. They find about as good as one as you can hope for at this point. Shlatan drops to half HP. Agresivoo drops to half HP, but it's no real lower than that. Attila, free firing just doesn't do enough at this point. Woolite was not there for the first 10 to 15 seconds of that play, and yet Mrs. Premier buy enough time for that to not be an issue. An utterly unfair fight from the LFL team.
Except for that, it was an unfair fight, and they are just robbing Vodafone Giants of anything on the Rift. 25 minutes into this game, and it just feels like Vodafone Giants, their backs aren't even against the wall. They're out the door at this point.
I mean, the wall's just been broken through, and it actually has a Vodafone Giants-shaped hole right in the middle of it as Mrs. Premier rammed them straight through it. The mid and AD carry are deathless. You can add in Agresivoo there too. You haven't killed 3 members of this team, try as you might. It has come down to 5v5's Miniduke going on towards the jungler, but I don't even know if you win that fight.
Well, Shlatan doesn't even want to test it. No. He's quite happy just to kick him away. It'll be back off cooldown fairly soon. Miniduke able to disengage. He did have the Alistar off, so he was relatively safe. And Attila, you know, slow farming up, but he's an entire item down on his counterpart, and Woolite has already started the Infinity Edge. 2 of the 3 components for that. Gonna have a fair amount of gold. It's 605, worth a lot of money. Actually, there is a win condition here for Vodafone Giants.
Is it shutdowns per chance?
They get an ace.
I think it's...
you win a team fight or you win a bunch of little picks on these people worth money and feed that money to Attila specifically, and maybe that's your win con. But I mean, that is a wild...
Yeah, you're hoping that... You're hoping that Woolite's APM is so high, he literally shears the cable to his mouse, he just disconnects, and then Attila picks up the gold. That's what you're literally hoping for at this point. It's outside the realms of decent possibility. And I have to say, from the side of Misfits Premier, I am utterly surprised, pleasantly surprised in some ways, saying that they've managed to make sure that Miniduke just hasn't been an issue. I thought that Sylas, the Alistar, as we've pointed out several times throughout this game, would be a defining factor. It's not been at all. But the
Alistar has been.
Yeah, exactly.
I would argue Jactroll's had such amazing impact in this game that, you know, we were worried that he kind of counterpicked himself as we say this. He jumps in onto 113 and 113 loses so much health. Shlatan somehow goes through the goalpost.
He's going again.
That's the goal card. There's the Infernum down. Miniduke stealing away that Unbreakable, but Misfits have already disengaged. They're just doing a little bit of the DPS check.
Yeah, just, you know, skill checking that Vodafone Giants have got their hands in the right place, got themselves their heads still in the game. The heads might be in the game, but it looks like their Nexus might not be, as the Baron is being started once again by Misfits Premier. Going towards yet another one in this game. And with this level of a lead, you don't expect a reasonable comeback. I'm going to save you a bit of time, Hiprain, because I know a lot of the time in this late game we go to, what can Vodafone Giants do in this late game? We talked about some shutdowns, but it is unreasonable to expect a comeback from this point. You're expecting miracles and not much of anything else.
This is a conversation I've had with Nymaera a lot. It's like, what can they do? I'm not a miracle worker. I think that is the outlook, unfortunately, here. They're teleporting in. They are looking for Shlatan, but he's got a Guardian Angel. Miniduke teleports in. Vodafone Giants are first in the area for the Dragon, but Misfits, they don't care. They're just going to be able to brute force their way in. Teleport's coming in from the Antonio.
Is this the hill they die on?
He wants to go for it. He's got a 2-level lead over 113. Obviously, Smite doesn't really matter, but there's the inset back. The Cannon Barrage goes down into the gold card. Everything has been layered down as the Guardian Angel will come through. The Resurrection and the Destiny is popped. All escape routes are cut off. Orange card, a gold card, all the cards. Attila's taken down. A double kill for Woolite. Kasing will be the only one left standing as a triple kill to round it out for Woolite. And Kasing just gonna... he'll be able to survive, but his base probably not going to be so lucky.
And was that the hill that they were going to die on? Almost certainly. It's a hill far, far from home. Sertuss teleports a bit closer towards that Nexus to finish off this game and score first blood in Nexuses towards the LFL's first seed.
Well, the inhibitor goes down unless Kasing has a miracle up his sleeve. I think this might be game number 1 going over to the LFL's first seed. Misfits Premier came here to play in the quarterfinals. They came here to dominate as the Nexus pops game 1 to Misfits.
It was a veritable Vene Vidi Vici. They came, they saw, they took some Nexuses, and they take that first game in this series too. I said academically, I was quite looking forward to seeing this game, how this early game would pan out, but that was not even a contest, really. As soon as that first jungle clear went a bit awry, it seemed like the whole game plan from Vodafone Giants went off the rails with it.
Well, it felt like, you know, Misfits read that. They placed the ward down. They went, all right, we're just not going to get caught on that level 1. And then I liked that, you know, we did see the Antonio, you know, getting that early priority on the GP, but then mid lane, like, it didn't quite go in the right way, so they're able to turn that in their favor instead. And, you know, the game quickly snowballed away from them. And that is, unfortunately, the first loss. But it is a best of 5. There is still more to play for. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw to a break. And when we're back, we'll have our analyst to talk a little bit more about that. So see you in a moment.
Peace.
French Rabbits take down game one as they deny Vodafone Giants from the entire game. Because looking at what happened in this game, Trouble, we talked a lot about this in the pre-show. It feels like Vodafone Giants wants to do something they've been showing the entire groups already, and that's playing via bot lane.
Yeah, I think you could say they're a little bit one-dimensional in their gameplay, but I feel like what is really important to say here about Misfits Premier is that they have identified that and how they have taken this down. And this is what we're here to do. We're here to show you exactly how Misfits Premier shut down Vodafone Giants very early into the game. So as you can see right here, we're in the bot lane, and what is really important is that this wave is pushing down towards Woolite and Jactroll, and right here you'll see that these both bot lanes want to take a brawl as I play this clip. And the brawl doesn't really go the side of Vodafone Giants. Kasing moves a little bit too far forward. Woolite has the red gun and he's getting lifesteal back from it. And he also has the sniper, which means he keeps on digging onto Kasing. And right here, this is a problem, right? Because Kasing is very low HP. Unfortunately, he has to back to go to base, but look at that. A wave is pushing in. If I bring up the minimap, there is another wave that's pushing in from the bot side as well, and that is becoming a problem because now Attila has to lane on his own. But what that does is not that it just gives Woolite the chance to push waves. It keeps Attila underneath his tower. There is no support, which means that this guy on your screen gets a free scuttle crab because no one is there to stop him. But it doesn't stop there. Knowing that the Braum is not in lane, Shlatan will use the priority that his bot lane has given him, and after the Scuttle Crab, he will start slowly but surely moving into the jungle. I'm gonna pause this here too. You see that Sertuss is also starting to lean towards the bot side of the map. Shlatan is going to move inside the jungle. Braum, still MIA. He has backed. He needs to come back to lane. Attila cannot really do much because his HP bar is sort of low. He can only stay underneath his tower, but now he's being threatened for a dive, so he has to move in, try to get some vision for himself. The second he sees Shlatan right there, he has to back off. Backing off, though, means that he loses in experience and gold, which is what Vodafone Giants really rely on to put onto Attila so he can carry later on in the game. That means that this Tristana is deprived of what she needs to carry that early game, pushing back all the way to the bush. Shlatan takes the Gromp as he took the Scuttle Crab, and 113, if we see on the map right here, he's gonna try to walk into his jungle. To his dismay though, everything is missing, and from that play only, Shlatan manages to pull ahead, and I feel like that was the name of the entire game as well. It was Shlatan taking over the map from just that one play.
I don't think only Shlatan here, Dagda, because I know what you think, but also like Shlatan and Sertuss, that combination.
Yeah, I think Shlatan kind of continued to punish down through this bottom side because you go, okay, cool. Well, you know, the AD carry, we have an advantage. They've just pushed them off that bottom wave. So Attila's now behind. We're then looking at the jungler being behind as well. So as we start to see more and more of these fights down around the kind of like 11-minute mark, we got that big fight with Jactroll in the bottom lane, Sertuss leaning as well. Misfits Premier did a really good job of understanding, hey, we've got these leads on the bottom side of the map. Let's continue to push that issue.
And I think this game starts with the team comp, because we have talked about these teams, what we kind of expect from them. And these two team comps look very well-rounded for both of these.
Yeah, I kind of really like what both of these team comps want to do. On one side, you've got the Tristana Braum on the bot lane. You know that there's a Twisted Fate on the other side, so you've got the Braum for extra insurance right there. Attila was also running the cleanse. That's a Twisted Fate come down bot. You don't have a problem. You'll be carefree. And this Tristana, what you want to do is permanently shove in the lane to the point where you can just possibly bleed that into the jungle or take complete control of the bot side of the map. Whilst for the other side from Misfits Premier, you've got the mid-jungle duo that want to take over the entire map.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The Vodafone Giants comp is great in theory, but when you fall so far behind in the bottom lane, you then open up for that mid-jungle to take over. And that's exactly what we saw, right? Sertuss leaning consistently with Shlatan playing through him. And then, of course, having Jactroll into the mix as well. This mid-jungle support was everywhere. It was so difficult to keep track of.
I mean, it's the main storyline we see throughout the quarterfinals. Like, it's always about this mid-jungle, this support. And I think Jactroll showing here why he's still considered to be one of the best.
Yeah, and honestly, when I was looking at Group D, Misfits Premier stood out to me because of how well they worked through that three-man unit. And we're seeing it here once again, right? 100% kill participation on the jungle, on the support when we look towards that 15-minute mark. And then when you look at Sertuss as well, you only missed out on a single kill pre-15 minutes. Like, these guys were working so well as a cohesive unit, there was just no way for Vodafone Giants to try and get that step back into the game, and Sertuss taking over control with the Twisted Fate on the map. How do you try and find picks or anything to close that goal difference?
Even on this replay that we're seeing right now on screens, Vodafone Giants took a gamble to try and fight 4v5 versus Misfits Premier, but Misfits Premier unfortunately were so far ahead that not only were they able to turn the fight around, but the second that Woolite was there, Misfits Premier wiped them off the face.
I mean, I want to give credit to, and I think that I need to throw this to you, Trouble. Your love in the jungle, Mr. Shlatan, he performed well.
What can I say?
I can't believe you're cheating on Woolite.
I've got a really... I just really like good, aggressive junglers, and I've had my eye on Shlatan again ever since he was playing in Kick together with Matislo, and specifically his Lee Sin was feared for a reason. You can see here what reason he was feared for. I think he had like 100% kill participation at 15. He was everywhere. Well, everywhere except top, but we'll say everywhere.
Yeah, but I think that's the big thing, right? It's like Shlatan is such a crucial member in like understanding, hey, look, how are my lanes set up? What is the priority that I can play around? And we saw it perfectly in the clip that George illustrated, that you can move over down towards this bottom side. They have Sertuss who are roaming. They're then going in and invading. It's all about playing off these different priorities. It's something that Shlatan excels at and why he's so dominant.
I felt like the entire game and the entire story of this game was built out of that one brawl that got played down the bot lane. From that specific brawl, Attila went far behind in experience and gold, and also Shlatan was able to snowball his lead in experience and gold too.
Because let's take a look what happens here. It is Vodafone Giants thinking they caught Jactroll, he goes back in, and then all of a sudden everyone's there.
Yeah, this is the fight that we were talking about at that 11-minute mark where they just completely take over this game. Sertuss, really good positioning to come down here. Jactroll, phenomenal engage, and it's just better reactions coming through, especially when you look towards where Attila was positioned on that bot side, not able to help. And now once more, we get this big engage. But watch Sertuss, again, coming in at the perfect positioning to set up these plays ahead of Miniduke. And when Woolite's already got this massive lead, Inferno is burning through people, they're just on fire.
And we can't really say that Vodafone Giants didn't try to turn this around, because they tried to take a lot of skirmishes, especially like this one we saw right now. It was just that Misfits Premier were moving around the map that much better. You saw again Woolite under the radar on that Aphelios, but he did so much damage for them. Agresivoo under the radar in this game, but he was a big, beefy frontline that no one could pass through. So even I feel like Sertuss, it didn't have like any flashy plays, but almost 100% kill participation on the Twisted Fate. And I feel like this is what Misfits Premier is all about. They take your lead, but you suddenly sit there and you're like, how?
And we're starting to see the same issues that we saw with the other Super League representatives, which is if you're going to play heavily around this bottom side, it's not going to work out. You don't really have any other options. And when this composition was so set up around the Tristana, trying to move down with Miniduke, trying to play skirmish heavy around that bottom side, the fact that you make one mistake and it costs you that much really just spells a big issue that they now have to try and rectify coming into Game 2.
Now moving forward into that Game 2, what do we want to see from Vodafone Giants? What do they need to change up? Do they maybe have to show a bit more pressure? Does 1-1-3 need to step up? What do we want to see?
I think the big one for me is looking at these kind of more roaming-oriented mid laners, right? Like, I want to see things like the Twisted Fate talking to the board. We are highlighting this big Rise pick coming through at the start of the day as well. Like, these picks that can roam are going to be your downfall here. Misfits Premier are so good at using that mid-jungle support that if you're going to give them access to the map, they're going to just take the reins from you this entire game long. So I think that's the big one for me. And again, just enabling a little bit of a safer, I say safer. I actually want to see engage for Kasing on the bot side rather than the Braum. I think setting up to allow a Tristana to take over lane, have these more aggressive plays, are going to work out wonders for you.
I'd also like to see possibly, Koolein, Miniduke taking away the Twisted Fate for himself. I felt like they prioritized the Braum and the Xin Zhao above the Twisted Fate, and I feel like Miniduke is an excellent Twisted Fate as well, and he can put that pressure towards that bot lane to get Attila ahead.
Now, moving forward into this series, we have to see if Vodafone Giants can bounce back. Once again, they're the last hope for Superliga, and they have to make it happen now or never. We're going to head on over to a break, but when we're back, we're going to see what they can do against that very, very strong Misfits Premier.
He's going to flash in, and he steals the farm! How does that connect by entry? That's EU Masters Champions!